Hi, my name is Patrick Harris, and I'm doing my project on Jamestown, Virginia. I'm choosing Jamestown because I've always been fascinated by the early history of the United States, and what better place to do it than the birthstone of the United States. History of Jamestown. Jamestown was established on May 14th, 1607 by English settlers. Their journey started on December 6th, 1606 with three ships, the Godspeed, the Discovery, and the Susan Constant. Roughly 100 men were set out to start a settlement in North America, and on May 13th they picked Jamestown, which became the first permanent English settlement in North America. It was named Jamestown after King James I. The settlement was already a struggle due to disease, famine, and flaky relations at best with the Native American people, but in 1679 there was a rebellion on Jamestown. It was led by Nathaniel Bacon against the governor William Berkeley. The initial cause of the rebellion was due to the lack of retaliation against the Native Americans for attacking frontier settlements. Governor Berkeley also denied them the right to claim land westward and would not let them expand. The rebellion burned a significant part of the Jamestown to the ground and was left in ruins. The rebellion was used to gain government recognition for the settlers. The capital still stayed in Jamestown until the State House was burned down in 1698. Some believed it was arson from a prisoner awaiting trial, but no one knows for sure. The capital was then moved to Williamsburg in 1699. This was not a good thing for Jamestown because after the capital was moved to Williamsburg, Jamestown was mainly used for cultivating and growing tobacco. The next major event for Jamestown was during the Revolutionary War. American and British prisoners were exchanged there. French soldiers also sought refuge at Jamestown after the Battle of Green Springs. In 1861, Jamestown was occupied by the Confederate Army. They built a fort in order to block Union advance up the James River. There was never a battle at Jamestown during the Civil War. However, the Confederate Army left Jamestown in 1862, and the Union troops and freed slaves occupied Jamestown the rest of the war. In 1893, Mr. and Mrs. Edward Barnley owned Jamestown. They donated 22.5 acres of land, part of which had the 17th century church tower on it, to the Association for the Preservation of American Antiques, which is known today as the Preservation America. The rest of the land was acquired by the National Park Service in 1934 and was then made part of the Colonial National Historic Park and is now a tourist and educational destination. Environmental characteristics. When the English first settled, they built a triangle fort like in the picture shown. Jamestown was chosen for specific reasons. It had water on three sides of it and was not completely an island like it is today. It was far enough inland. It was easy to defend against Spanish attacks. The water was also deep enough that they could harbor their ships on the shoreline. It was also not inhabited by Native American people. Because of the erosion of the James River, Jamestown is now an island. The James River had eroded the western shore of Jamestown so significantly that the Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiques, with the help of a federal grant, had to build a concrete seawall in 1900 to stop the erosion after 50 to 60 acres of Jamestown had been worn away by the water, including the areas of the first landing place. Architects have been digging to rediscover the facts about the English settlers and the birthplace of the United States. After 20 years of digging, they have uncovered over 2 million artifacts of Jamestown and have been able to recreate several buildings in the actual locations the settlers built them. They are still currently digging and researching specific parts of the park. Political and economic characteristics. King James granted a charter to the Virginia Company, and the Virginia Company funded the trip to the New World in hopes that the settlers would be able to find gold on the shores of the banks. It was an investment and not a ploy to conquer the New World. Tobacco was the main crop that was grown in Jamestown. John Rolfe started growing tobacco. However, the tobacco that they grew from the local Indians was harsh and could not be sold in London. He was able to get seeds from the Nicotiana tabacum strain, which was grown in South America and was illegal to sell to anyone that was not Spaniard. The new product flourished, and some say it saved Jamestown. The Association for the Preservation of Virginia Antiques partnered with the federal government to conduct archaeology, research history, and interpret the story of Jamestown. For the 300th anniversary in 1907, the federal government added a 103-foot tall Jamestown monument at the privately owned state site of Jamestown. President Hoover established a national monument in 1930, and Congress upgraded its status and protection in 1936 when it passed the legislation that changed from Jamestown Monument to a Colonial National Historic Park. Cultural characteristics. European and Indian interactions were hit or miss. They would trade tools for food and teach one another new skills. They would also raid the settlers' villages, and the settlers would do the same. The settlers did not use them as slaves. The settlers did use them as slaves to help build Jamestown and cultivate the fields. Indentured service slowly dissolved because of slavery. The first African to come to Jamestown was in 1619. Eventually, more and more slaves were brought in to help Jamestown, therefore getting rid of indentured servants. This gave Jamestown what is known today as a Southern-like culture. Current-day Jamestown is a tourist destination. They have a living museum of what Jamestown used to be like when the English settled. They have replicated John Smith and Pocahontas characters that come and visit and give educational speeches. You can schedule tours to see where they have dug for artifacts and even view the ones they have found on site. And these are my resources, my picture resources.